At the beginning, it was more like some days when I was feeling really dialed in, I would use the practice guide. I would, really think about my practicing, put effort in. And it was really tiring, for sure, because you have to always be thinking like, what am I doing wrong? It's a constant hour and a half of, oh, I think it's my fourth finger that's the problem. Like you're always diagnosing the issues, and this is the best way to practice, right? But then, of course, most days I would sort of come home from school. I'd be kind of tired, and I'd be like, "All right, let me just run through," and then it wouldn't really be as effective. But yeah, like some days it'd be really good, but most days, I would sort of just be on autopilot. Like I didn't even notice this difference as much until actually we started playing the Chopin Etudes, and then you started me at the end on the last two pages, and then suddenly I can't play the whole thing through because I was working backwards, and so it actually forced me to sort of like, oh, think before I started practicing, where do I start? Um, and there was this sort of slow process of realizing that, oh, the more thinking I do, the better my practice sessions really are. I'm also sort of sad that it took a while, that this is sort of a slow realization, but maybe it does just take a lot of repeated encouragement from you. The default is always just start at the beginning and then play through. But even that little moment of, oh, I don't actually know how to play the beginning yet. Now I have to figure out where to start. That sort of got me in the mood every time I started playing the etude of like, oh, now I'm dialed in. I think it's funny actually. Like a lot of what I notice is like there's just these little moments of getting into it. So once you start, you're good. Like if you start and you're dialed in, you're good and you pay a lot of attention. But if you allow yourself to just play through and you don't have that starting moment, then your practice session isn't very good.
If you had already practiced the ending part, you're motivated to start there,
Mm,
right? Because you can
right.
actually play it. And whereas at the beginning, it would be now the beginning would be more difficult.
Hmm.
So that's a good thing for me to remember. I thought that the index was brilliant. And I thought, oh, this will be really interesting to people because they'll say, I can give my own assignment. Not true, right?
It requires a lot of, I guess, self-motivation and I guess self-awareness to be able to do that. I think it's a lot easier to just like go on autopilot instead of sort of taking ownership of your practice session. I occasionally did when I was practicing by myself was I would prohibit myself from playing a certain section until I like did the most important work for that piece. And I think this was prompted by something you said in class one time, which was that we were working on a thorny section and you were like, how about at the end, give yourself a treat, play through everything. And then I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Playing through really is sort of a treat. I make sure every time I start a piece, I start at the thorny section. Everything just feels so much better when I play everything through.
Before that, would you play through something first and then work on things and then play through it again? Or
Yeah, I would sort of do that, but it was a lot less, I guess, intentional because as soon as I started just playing through, I wasn't really thinking of exactly where I needed to start next.
okay.
But so if I sort of in between pieces, I pause and I always think, where is the most important section to
Mhm.
to start for this next piece? And I'm sure you can assist with that. When you are organizing your notes for the week, maybe intentionally say something like, start with this section for every piece. So the student is immediately launched into the most difficult, most thought-intensive part of the practice. I guess the more time I spent with you in class, the more I was able to sort of understand your mindset, not just the techniques. Like in class when you would give some comments and I'd be like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. This was sort of a mindset shift of how should I think about practicing? How should I think about prioritizing my time? Like, should I think about prioritizing my time?
Mhm.
Um, and I guess sort of over the years that slowly like made itself clear to me. I would guess that most young boys just want to play fast, even if they've never sort of like listened to the final product.
I see.
Um, and it's sort of also a mindset shift. I remember when I was younger, I would always marvel at I would listen to a professional recording. I'd be like, wow, they play so fast. But then as I got older, I would be more, wow, they play so clearly. They play so gently. And it's sort of a what what part of the music am I admiring? And if I'm admiring the speed, I'm also going to want to play fast. But if I want clarity, I will also I'll probably not sort of put my foot to the pedal as hard and
Mm.
really lock in and practice. Harrison was really helpful in helping me sort of appreciate the not just the speed or the flashy parts of music. And it was funny, like when we had our duet practice sessions, he would whip out his phone sometimes and be like, I want to show you someone's interpretation.
I
And
see.
actually, I think we were at an age where we would appreciate like the not just the flashy aspects. Right. Like as a young sort of middle schooler, early high schooler, I still didn't really know what I was listening for when I listened to recordings. But now I think I have a much better understanding.
Uh-huh.
And I think all of that comes from sort of slowly absorbing some of your views on music. And I'm not sure how or when exactly that happened. It was sort of a slow process, but
Mm.
until you develop someone's values, to really understand music, it's going to be hard to teach them how to practice in order to get there. Because otherwise they'll have sort of like, let me just play fast. A lot of sense. Have you ever asked what they want the final product to look like, or what do you what do you think is the goal of this section? What do you want it to sound like? I think those are every time I ask myself that in my practicing, which was only somewhat occasionally, it ended up being very helpful. It requires a lot of intentionality to really think about, oh, my goal is this. How do I get there?